Hi everyone, this is Legacy School Year 7 History, Lesson 14. We will be talking about the medieval village and the medieval castle. We will learn what life in the countryside looked like. We will learn how castles were built, protected, and attacked. So farming in the Middle Ages. Now, in the Middle Ages, 90% of the population worked the land. Okay, today it's just 1%, so you can see the huge difference. At that time, most of the people lived in the countryside. The majority of the people lived in the countryside. Only a few people lived in towns and cities. So life on the farm was very tough. The work was very difficult. At that time, people got ill, sick quite often. Medicine was rare, and people died of simple diseases and exhaustion as well. The average age of death was 30 years. Okay, so just imagine that most people died around the age of 30. If somebody lived up to the age of 40, that was considered quite old. You can see a farm, a village in your picture. Let's take a look at more closely to the medieval village. Now you can see this picture. You can see on the top of the hill there is a manor. This is the manor house of the lord or the tenant of this land. This could be a baron or a knight. Okay, so this field, this manor house, was usually built, of course, from stone. It was the strongest building. Now, the manor was surrounded by strips of field. You can see the green areas. Okay, this was divided amongst the peasants. These peasants had to work, of course, on their land. This was not theirs. It belonged to the lord, but he gave it to them to work on it, right? And in return, the peasants had to work on the lord's land, which was called demesne. It's a French word, okay, demesne. So demesne is the land that belongs to the lord. All right, so peasants also pay taxes to the lord, okay, and that was not enough. The other very important building, you can see the church over here, okay, so you can see this was the manor and this is the church. The other stone building, the strong building of the medieval village was the church. Not much religious service throughout the week. Occasionally religious holidays were and festivities were arranged by the church. So as we said, peasants had to pay taxes not only to the lord but also to the church, which was called tithe. Okay, this is the word tithe. This is 1/10 of all the farm produce in a year. So you can see that the church was very powerful and very, very rich. So peasants just worked all year long. They had to pay their lord, and they also had to pay quite a lot of money and produce to the church. Now, how did peasants live? They lived in small huts. They were made of wood and straw. Family members often slept in the same room and sometimes on the same straw bed. All right, so let's take a look at another medieval village. You can see this is a very nice picture of a medieval village with the manor house, okay, a nice strong building, the church, which was also built on the land of the lord. Okay? You can see the huts, the straw huts, wooden straw huts where the peasants lived. You can see some green areas around these houses. Peasants could grow vegetables over there. You can also see the mill, which also belonged to the lord, and the wheat was made into flour here. You can see this workshop of a blacksmith. This blacksmith was also a very important person or member of the community. He made tools for the horses, tools for the farming. All right, so what did the life of a peasant look like? Farmers kept a small plot of land for themselves called croft. I just showed you in the previous picture. They grew vegetables. They kept bees, chickens, geese, and sheep. Right? Animals were kept for milk, eggs, and textiles. Okay, sheep, for example, for the wool. But usually animals were not slaughtered for meat because they were way too valuable. Okay? Only the rich ate meat. Poor people ate meat very rarely. People usually ate bread, okay, sometimes with a little cheese, and usually they drank beer instead of water because water was often too dirty to drink. Now, animals were very, very precious. Okay, cows and sheep were very expensive, right? Animals were very expensive, and because they were so precious, they were quite well protected. Sometimes they were kept in the house, especially in the winter time, not just for protection, but also to provide heat. So you can imagine the smell in the houses if there were animals inside the same room where people slept. Now, peasants could work in their lord's mill, okay, as millers. Okay, they could be constables, like a policeman. They could be blacksmiths, making iron tools from iron, and coopers. These people mended casks and barrels, or they could be hunters of wildfowl or fowlers. Okay, this was the name of the job. All right, let's take a look at the medieval castle now. We mentioned earlier that when the French came to England, they wanted to protect themselves by very, very simple structures. These were the Motte and Bailey castles. There was an artificial hill made. This was the motte. Okay, there was a courtyard around it, which was the bailey, and around this bailey, a wall and a ditch was dug. This was filled with water. It was very easy and very quick and cheap to build. So when the castle was attacked, people would seek refuge in the bailey. If the walls were breached, then they could go to the tower, to this artificial motte, and hide in that tower. The picture that you can see over here is a more advanced medieval castle. You can see that there is already a stronger castle keep. There are towers as well, and there is a drawbridge. There are also battlements, which are these fortified walls on which the guards could pass. All right, so let's take a look at another picture of an even more advanced castle. I would like to show you some of the parts that were very important for the defense of the castle. Right. So let's take a look at the castle is surrounded by a moat. Of course, this is the water around it. This very, very long wall. It was called a curtain wall. Okay, all around the castle, strong and very high, okay, a few meters thick. On the top of this wall were the so-called battlements, where guards could walk, right? You can see very strong towers. Okay, that's a tower, for example. Okay, and on these towers you can see these. I'll show you here. These slits. Just a second. You can see these slits, small windows. Okay, you can see them over here as well. Here on this tower as well, you can see those tiny slits. These are called arrow slits. An archer could stand behind these arrow slits and release an arrow if the castle was attacked. All right. Of course, we understand that the drawbridge is something that can be pulled up or released or let down if somebody wanted to leave the castle. The gatehouse was just behind. The gatehouse was a building just behind the gate. Okay, so this would be the gatehouse. And because usually the gates were the weakest points of a castle, the gatehouse was fortified by two very strong towers on each side. Right, so you can see that this is a much more advanced castle with very defensive thinking. It was built with strong defensive thinking. Let's take a look at how castle was defended. These expressions and this terminology, these words are also explained in your book. I would like you to read it there as well. We already mentioned curtain walls. We mentioned moat. gatehouse. The murder holes were gaps in the roof, and people from the castle would just pour hot water, waste material, or stones on the heads of the attackers. We mentioned the drawbridges, arrow slits. Crenellations were on the top of the battlements, okay, the regular gaps running along the top of the castle, like teeth. So, for example, if you look back, you will see these, okay, these regular gaps. Okay, the arrow would be released from these gaps, and then the archer could hide behind the other, this part basically of the crenellation. All right, and the castle keep, as we mentioned, the strongest stone building in the heart of the castle with very, very thick walls, and this was the final refuge for the people if the castle walls were breached. All right, you can see a picture here on this slide where the castle is being attacked. Of course, from the Middle Ages, there were very sophisticated machines, equipment to attack very high walls. I would like to show you some in this picture. Now, mangonel is a kind of catapult, right, which would throw a heavy object against the wall, but it was a little bit shorter, smaller. Now you can see this instrument here. This is an advanced version of the mangonel. This is a trebuchet. Okay, and you can see this ball of fire being sent into the tower wall, or into the bailey, the courtyard of the castle. You can also see battering rams here. Okay, these are battering rams. Okay. So this is a battering ram, and this is a battering ram, which was an instrument under which people would hide, and they would push it against the wall or the door to break it. Okay, they were hiding under the cover, under this cover. You can see the siege tower, which would create the opportunity for the attacking soldiers to attack higher, even reach the walls. If none of this worked, sometimes attacking forces would use undermining. They would dig under the tower and they would light a fire, and the tower or the gate would collapse. They could also use a siege. If nothing else worked against the castle, then the attacking forces could surround the castles, and they could just starve the people. Nobody went in, nobody came out. And after the people used up their food, they would come out by themselves. So these were methods to attack a castle in the medieval times. All right, just a few more pictures to show you. These are battering rams. Okay, this one is without a cover, and this piece of wood would be, they would be able to move this piece of wood, and this second battering ram, soldiers could be hiding under the cover. There's another picture of a siege of a castle. You can see different equipment being used, and of course, as times went by, lords wanted to create stronger and stronger castles, so they came up with this type of castle, which is a concentric castle. And you can see it's called concentric because it has two walls around each other, protecting. Creates double protection of the bailey. All right. So your homework, please take notes from the slides, and please focus on the vocabulary. Read pages 30-33 in your book. I hope you enjoyed learning about attacking and defending a castle. Answer questions on page 31 and 33, please. Don't forget, label your copybook with headings, dates, and page numbers. When I check it, I need to be able to find things there quickly. Thank you.